ETOPIA Festival. And today I am here with my co-host, St. Josh.
Yep.
And we have a special guest today. And his name is Jay Clay. Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
So, ETOPIA Festival is a workforce development project that we're working on putting together to help bridge the gap between I'm in school, I'm learning about performing arts, I love acting, I love making music, I love singing, I love dancing, I love creating content. Well, how do you turn that now into a career, something that you could make money at and thrive off of? And how do you find like mentors that can help you get the shortcuts and not have to waste a whole lot of time to get there and prosper? And so as part of what we're doing, we've been getting together for this weekly live stream to just talk about some of the topics that musicians to think about. We're going to be interviewing other creatives too as we go along, but I'm a musician. Josh is also a musician and a producer, and Jay Clay is also a musician and a producer. So, like we end up bringing the people we hang around with most. But we look forward to interviewing more people in the film industry and graphic design and all kinds of creative industries, because I'm creative with music does not mean that I am oh so creative with how I present myself online, or I'm not really good with the digital aspect of how to actually capture the sound of the song. So eventually you're going to have to start building your team. And the biggest thing that ETOPIA project or ETOPIA Festival is all about is building that teamwork between the different creative industries so that we can all just spend time doing the things that we're really good at and like them. So today, what we're talking about is something that I feel like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, that's not so important, or I'll get to that later, or I don't know how, so I'll just ignore it and maybe somehow it'll get done. I don't know. It doesn't get the respect or the conversation time that I feel like it should get. We're talking about protecting your music with a copyright. We're also going to be talking a little bit about trademarks and how you can use trademarks to protect yourself, your ideas, and why this stuff is important to be thinking about. And so that's why we brought Jay Clay on here. He's got some experience with this, and St. Josh has experience with this as well. So where do you guys want to start with this conversation? Like, where do we even start with this? It just seems so overwhelming.
Yep. Maybe just why you should copyright. Like, it may seem obvious, but
one.
Yep. Yeah. We can start with that. That's fun.
Yeah. All right. So you guys, why should we copyright our music?
Well, you should copyright your music simply just to protect yourself. You want to have a formal registration with the Copyright Office so it becomes easier to defend your music whenever you might need to protect it. In case anybody tries to steal it, it's really good to just have all of your stuff together so there is no guessing or confusion when it comes to the rights of your music.
All right. And Jay Clay, do you have any feedback on why you want to copyright?
Yeah, just exactly what Josh said, but also we put a lot into our music, and we don't want our songs to blow up under someone else's name. Like, it usually the road of a musician is one of not financial abundance immediately. So, if you put your heart and soul into it, you want to be compensated for it. And when it blows up, you want people to know who is the owner of it, and you want to be protected by that. So,
yeah. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we want to stake claim to our song, but if we copyright stuff, what else can happen?
So one thing that can happen is you can get royalties from it. You don't necessarily have to copyright to get royalties, but again, it just makes the process so much easier. You have this third party that vouches for you in the country that you live in. So by law, like you are the registered owner that everyone has to go through and get permissions from. And so like if television shows or movies or just any another artist wants to sample you, they have to come through you to sample your work because it is your work.
Yep. Yeah. Just to add on to what he's saying, you don't have to register a copyright to collect royalties, but like he's saying, in order for them to really have a clear understanding of who owns it, who owns the licensing and everything, copyrights definitely help in that process for sure.
Okay, so I have copyrighted in the past by sending myself a CD recording of my songs and being like, here, I didn't open the envelope and it's post dated on this date. Is that like, is that a good way to copyright my music?
Well, I would say whenever you create something, you do have a protection. There, it is a tangible project. So if you write lyrics, if you create a song in, like your DAW or recording program, that is already protected. And registering your song with the Copyright Office just gives you an extra level of protection. As far as what she's saying, it's like kind of mailing your. I hear that a lot about people mailing themselves, but I don't think that is as protective as it's thought of to be.
Right. And it was funny is I actually started off by doing that years ago. But the thing is, it's too easy to be faked. Like, by using something like the U.S. Copyright Office, they know they have a record of it. Or even once you publish your song, maybe you put it up for streaming to the streaming platforms. There's a third party record. It's a clear record that everyone can see when you first started using it. And with the mailer, it's like somebody who's very creative can kind of try to post date it, backdate it, and it's just too hard to tell.
Yeah, like you said.
Okay, so I heard you talking about the Copyright Office. So I'm just going to put that link in the chat for any of you who are not familiar with this. We'll talk more about that soon. Sorry I cut you off. Josh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying he's right. Like that public date, whenever you have that public usage is really good because there's no question about, hey, this is when that song came out or whatever. And it's right there publicly, so it can't be altered. So that's really good. And the really cool thing to know when it comes to copyright is you have two different sides. You have the sound recording, which is what people commonly refer to as the master. And then you have the composition, which is the publishing. And the composition is the melody, lyrics, the underlying, actual structure and stuff of the song. And then on the recording, that's like the file, like the audio file of the master, with what we call our master.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about the right way to go about copywriting something, the way that really is going to protect us. So I put the link in the chat, but now that I go to that page, then what do I do?
Well, first off, for sure, you need to register, sign up. Now,
Yeah.
So it can become overwhelming when the first time you're doing this, because like Josh said, you can do a sound recording or performance art. And sound recording is just how it sounds. Like it's the recording of the song, like maybe a finished product or even an unfinished product that has, the melody and everything. But the PA, I think you can use it for other things like a lyric sheet. Is that right? I think so.
I think you can do a lyric sheet.
Yeah. And when you do sound recordings, you can also do the other one as well at the same time. So it's possible to do both at once. I usually just do the SR and include the PA with it.
Yeah.
So if I heard you right, I don't even have to have the song completely done before I protect it.
Right.
And then you just go in there and you just update it as you get it more finished.
Right. Right. So like you would put in all your information. You would put in, of course, your name, the name of the project, or you can lump a lot of songs together. I think you can do up to 10 right now at once. Yeah, and it can save you on that fee. But the rule is like the clean rule is if you're doing multiple works at once, is if the copyright info is the same, like it's the same songwriters associated with it, then you can bulk do it. But I mean, if you're pressed for time and you just want to just get something out there, you can still get yours in there. It might not be 100% legit if there are other writers, but as long as you two can prove that in a sense, like so if there's other writers involved, you should co-create with them, copyright with them.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. Like, how do I know how to split up, like, as far as different people collaborating on a song? How do I figure that out?
That's going to really depend upon a lot of times I would say what you and your collaborators would agree upon on like how much contribution has went into everybody's part, because some songs have 10 different people that work on it, but then really there's only maybe 2 artists or 1 artist but there's been 10 people that touched it. So it just kind of comes down to what you negotiate with your own network and your own people, and who had a hand in certain things. I would say usually the artist will retain rights into the master when it comes to like the actual recording. Like if me and Jay Clay did a song and me and him are both performing, then we would own part of the master. But if, let's say Jay Clay helped me write a song, he might only get part of the composition side.
Right.
And that can be altered too, though. Yeah, it can, like me and him could make an agreement and say, hey, he's going to get 20% of the master or whatever. It's really at your own discretion.
Yeah. And typically, like when it comes to publishing as well, like the general rule of thumb is, let's say a song is worth 100%. 50% is the music side, 50% is the lyric side. And oftentimes, like he was saying, is when you collab with your collaborators, usually they have something that they call a split sheet, that you would decide like, okay, I wrote this amount, so maybe I should get the bulk of the percentage, or you could just break it evenly just to keep it safe. But from what I've heard, just from many people and from experience, you should do that split sheet as soon as possible, like as soon as you're creating, just so there aren't any surprises or any hurt feelings.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. When it comes to collaborating with other musicians, you want to have your expectations for what you're going to do set up front, or otherwise it will lead to hurt feelings because maybe that person assumed or thought that they were going to get this, but it was never really discussed. And if you don't actually write it down, then, things can get forgotten and confused. And it's really nobody's fault. Like it just happens. So having that written down is definitely a good strategy when problem solving this particular aspect of copywriting your music.
Yeah. And I want to add on to what Jay Clay said as well. The split sheet has become one of the biggest standards, I would say, for just having a quick, but even before copywriting, this is like the split sheet is such a great thing to have in place, because you just know, okay, I'm going to own this much of the song. He'll own this much of the song. And I think it's actually really good for collaborators to kind of discuss this before they even really create the song, or sometimes after. It just depends. But me personally, what I will do a lot of times is after I finish the recording of the song, that's when I'll do the split sheet, because then everything's kind of, post-production. And then like we know how much I contributed, how much they contributed, and that's kind of how I do it. But split sheet is super great to just have, because it has everybody's names. It can have everybody's PRO information, which is the performance rights. That's how you will get your back-end royalties when your song is used publicly. Have like contact information. It'll have like who owns this part of the master, who owns this part of the writer's share, who owns this part of the publishing share. And I feel like that's really, really great to have. as a split sheet.
Right.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Because when I copyrighted my album, like I'm getting through it and I'm like, oh, now I need information from my drummer. Hold on. Like I call him and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna fill in that part. And then I gotta call my guitar player. I'm like, okay. It's like getting all your information in place before you start the copyright helps the process a whole lot. Jay Clay, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, it does. Well, just to what you just said, real quick. Like, yeah, if you have collaborators that you frequently collab with, it's good to just have all their information on file already, just so because you're always dealing with them. But I wanted to add that, and everything is negotiable. So meaning, even though you have these split sheets, you can always go back and say, hey, can I buy you out, for this amount of percentage? Because you might be the main one that's pushing the song, and you might feel that, okay, if you still get the percentage off my work, well, what about we change this here? Or so just know that even though you have standards or that you can negotiate for a bigger percentage or even less percentage.
Yes. And then you have sometimes where a company or brand might want to hire an artist, and they'll have a work for hire agreement where they kind of want the artist to just work for them on like a wage or on a fixed rate for the project, where they will retain after the artists or songwriters have finished. So, let's say me and Jay Clay made a song for a local company, and they wanted to own 100% of those rights, then we could sign a work for hire agreement, and then they would retain 100% of that. And then typically that we'll get paid an upfront fee, but we won't collect any royalties and back end stuff on that song.
Interesting. Okay. So what if I get in the middle of doing this like whole copyright thing and I get stuck? Like, how do I get help? What can I do? Who can help me? Who knows about this stuff besides you guys?
Well, I would say, of course, YouTube is a very helpful resource, because you can hear people's stories of success stories or sob stories, and some people might even walk you through it. But ultimately, it does give an explanation of each field that you need to fill out. So even if you get stuck too, you can always go back and amend it, so you don't feel like you have to just know everything up front. The important thing is to do it first. Like just get it in there if you're gonna present it to the world and you want to make sure you're protected.
Yeah. And a lot of these websites, like the Copyright Office and a lot of the stuff for the royalties too, they have like YouTube channels, like he said, where you can kind of go to, and a lot of times they'll have like complete walkthroughs, or sometimes they have like PDF downloads where you can download a resource and it will just show you every little thing that you would need, or like a fact section, frequently asked questions, and they'll just kind of answer all of your things. And if you need more extensive one-on-one help, you can also go with people who are like entertainment attorneys who specialize in like music royalties and stuff. Obviously that's more expensive, but that is another option.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I didn't even realize that there were attorneys that just specialized in copyright for the longest time. So, and then, it might be a little bit more expensive, but you also know that everything is done correctly. Although it was very reassuring to hear you say, Jay Clay, that if it isn't done perfectly the first time, it's amendable. That like takes so much pressure off.
Yes.
Now, something else that you have some more experience with, Jay Clay, is trademark. Why do you want to get a trademark?
Well, I'll use myself for an example. Jay Clay is based on my real name, my first initial and my last name. And there are hundreds or maybe thousands more Jay Clays in the world. And so back when the internet was kind of new, when I was in high school, I came out as Jay Clay as a producer. But since then, so many Jay Clays popped up. And if my fans are looking for me on Spotify and they see all these other Jay Clays, or if they say, Siri, play Jay Clay, they might choose a different Jay Clay than me. But the only way I can protect myself is through a trademark. And these streaming platforms, they respect trademarks because they don't want to get sued. They're held liable if they're in violation of that trademark. So I can reach out to Spotify, I can reach out to Apple and say, hey, this is my trademark. You can see it. It's public on the website. This other artist is not me. I've been using this since 2006, 2000. No, I don't remember, but I have it all written out because it's easy to get them not necessarily removed. I would say they either need to change their name or remove it. But you have extra protection with the trademark for your artist name or your logo.
Yeah. And that's super important too, because I have St. Josh trademarked as well. And like he's saying, it just protects your name so other artists can't just claim your name or can't use it without your permission. Like, for instance, imagine a really big artist like an Eminem or Taylor Swift. Like, we can't just put out a song on Spotify with their name because of the copyright. Like, we have to have the paperwork and approval when we're using, bigger artists or whatever. That's how they're protected from us just using their name, is through that trademark. So yeah, it's definitely important. And you have different types of trademarks, like different service marks. Like mine is the entertainment services by a musical artist and producer, namely musical composition for others and production of musical sound recordings. That's what St. Josh is protected under. So that's like me as an artist.
And
so could somebody trademark St. Josh under a completely different category?
There are other categories. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
But like musically, like for instance, you can't even do a name like it. So it's like if somebody said Kanye West #2, like you can't do that. It's still someone's likeness.
Yes, exactly.
Kanye West.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Like he said, the likeness of the copyright is important too, because if it's already being used in business for my brand and I've been, doing this for years, and then you try to come in and start like trying to get other service marks for my copyright, but it's my business, that's definitely I believe a violation. And yeah.
And if somebody's new to trademarks and they want to do it themselves, like you can publicly search everyone's trademark. So one thing that I started, I looked at other artists to see what classes they trademarked. And some might have trademarked their name in the music class. Some might have had like their merchandise or their logo or their name for merchandising. So you can publicly search that right now for every company.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great way to also not use a name that has been trademarked if you're trying to come up with a name also.
Yeah. That database
that's
is really
a super good tip. So, I don't know, guys, do we have time to go further into this and start talking about some of the performance groups that you could be a part of that help you with collecting royalties? Or do we feel like we got a little time for that? All right.
Yeah, for royalties. Yeah.
So besides copywriting your music, like then how do you like start to collect royalties on songs? Like how does that part work?
Yeah, so you have many different royalties. I believe there's like 6 main royalties, but I'll try to break it down very simply. So you have the recording on one side, and that's like your actual master. And a lot of times you're going to get paid for that when you put it through distribution. So if you use platforms like DistroKid, TuneCore, Amuse, any of those, they will pay you directly when your music gets used. And then you also have on the recording side a digital performance royalty, and that will be paid by a platform like Sound Exchange. On the other side, you have the composition, which breaks down into the performance royalties and then the mechanical royalties. On the performance, they also break down again into writer share and publisher share, and those are paid out by the PRO, which stands for Performance Rights Organization. And essentially that is just to identify you as a songwriter and be able to collect your royalties when they get used in public settings, essentially.
Awesome. Anything you want to add to that, Jay Clay?
Yeah. But besides those, there are other organizations, like you said, as well, that you can collect royalties from, like So put it like this: every time your song is streamed, even on social media, you can get paid for that. I know I think Sound Exchange does that as well. Song Trader might do that as well. And then there's also international rights there. Like I signed up for Sound Reef, and I have, when my music plays in like Italy, I even have it plays in some stores in Russia, which is shocking to me. I get paid off that, and it's beautiful.
That's awesome. Like you wouldn't like think, but it is. The world has become smaller. So it makes sense to think about further out than just your home country.
Yeah.
So how I see that we put in the chat like some of the main ones. How did you find out about these? Like did someone tell you? Did you like Google? Like how did you find like some of these ones that aren't like the main ones?
So yeah, Google, a lot of research. I still remember being a new artist trying to even understand the rights, because it's like, I made the music. Why do I have to register all these places just to get paid for it? But it's because there's so much music out there, and these companies, they like, you might have markers in your song, like I can't remember what it's called, the ID tag or something. If you own the core rights to it, what's it called?
Well, you have a content ID too, like in your actual, I think, on the copyright.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of, the content ID. And they need to make sure, they need to I guess audit these companies, collect all the royalties. So they need their fees as well too. And so, but even some of these are I want to say are the pros privately owned, or is it like from members that actually collect it? Because when I joined ASCAP, there wasn't a fee to join, but I think there is now.
No, yeah, like I think that has changed, because when I joined BMI, they were non-profit, and now I believe they're for profit. So, pretty much, like anybody for BMI and ASCAP, I think can sign up, but you do have to pay a fee. Now, the difference with ASCAP and BMI is, ASCAP, I believe, to collect your publishing, you have to also have a publisher account, and you have a writer side and a publisher account. But on BMI, they will pay you your publishing side even if you don't have a publisher account. So even if you're only registered as a writer, but there are fees associated for each of these things. So if you make a writer's account, I think it's 75 with BMI, and then the publishing side would be depending on what you're registering as. If you're registering as a single, like a solo music person, or if you're registering as an LLC or whatever, and there is like a fee from, I think, anywhere from like 175 to about 250 for the publisher account. Now you can be represented by like unlimited publishers, but you can only really be represented by one writer account. So like, for instance, I'm a BMI writer, so that means I can't have a ASCAP writer account, but I could have a ASCAP publishing account. If I'm collaborating with ASCAP people and I'm going to be publishing other works with like a J. Clay or something, I could collect royalties on our songs through my publisher account with him, or on ASCAP.
That's interesting.
and as he was saying, like, there's a writer's side and there's a publishing side, and so it's important to do both. Like, it's not hard to be your own publisher, especially nowadays. The reason that they have publishers is because back in the day, artists weren't really not necessarily promoting their music, but what's the word I'm looking for? Where you try to get as much as you can off of a song, exploiting.
Yeah, like pitching it. And a lot of publishers used to do that for artists. Like, they would represent the song, try to get it into different shows, opportunities, ways that it can monetize. And like he said, originally, there weren't a lot of, I feel like, independent artists who are really doing that. Now the independent game is so strong, and you can self-publish and really be in charge of your own music.
Right. And so like sometimes people would sell their publishing purposely. Like they might say, hey, you can be my publisher for these 2 years or even indefinitely. Like you would still get your writer's credit, your writer's royalty, but they would get the publisher's royalties. And it's just it's kind of on you to gauge if it's worth it or not, because they might have resources and access to really promote your song to a lot of people, or they might not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I think even with the when it comes to like the sync side, you have the you got the master side, so and then you had the publishing side for your recording. So for instance, if your song was to get used in like a TV show, let's say you got $10,000 up front, sometimes that can be split based off the master and publishing. So like maybe like 5,000 for that, for the publishing, and the 5,000 for the master, and it's like all in one. Sometimes you can pay just for each one individually, like five. A lot of times they're all in one, but then sometimes they're split up between the master and the publishing side. And then on the writer's side, you could still collect the back end royalties like every time the song's used. So like for instance, let's say it's a commercial. They do like a big campaign for like, let's say like Taco Bell. Well, you can get paid, let's say 10, 20 grand for permission to use your song. That's the synchronization license. That's what that is. And then let's say they air the commercial 10,000 times. You can get a few dollars per every airing. And that's what you can collect with that writer's share. So it's really cool.
Awesome. So was there anything that we didn't cover in today's conversation that we wanted to go over?
I'll say St. Josh is better at this, but like trying to get those placements, because I'll put it like this. My biggest check at once came from a placement. And the movies, probably like big blockbuster movies, are the highest paid. And then maybe next are TV shows. And then under that, maybe commercials, or it could be neck and neck with commercials and TV shows. Just depends if it's a national commercial or not. But placements are a nice way to make a nice chunk of change.
Yeah. There's different ways and avenues to monetize your music. Obviously selling directly to your fans. Radio. There's like Sirius, and then there's like college radios you can get on. There's a lot of different ways, and then like he said, like the sync, like the big broad, what do you call it? Like the national broadcast stuff and the big blockbuster. Those will pay the most for like when your song is used in like a specific media. Trailers also pay a lot, like a movie trailer. And then some will pay less. Like you have certain shows that are like reality shows that they go through a lot of music, so they might pay less on their like upfront stuff. But it is another great way that you can kind of monetize your music, and getting into music libraries, making connections with sync agents and music supervisors. And a music supervisor is the person that places the music. So let's say they have a scene in a show that needs music. Let's say it's like a couple kissing, or it's like a romantic scene. Well, the supervisor is in charge of putting like a romantic song to fit that scene, and that's what the supervisors do. And then the sync agents, which is basically what I'm building and becoming with my TYG music group, is we have relationships with the supervisors, and we just make their life easier by making sure all the music is cleared, making sure all of the ducks are in a row. Essentially, we got all the information, everything's signed off, all the split sheets are done, we know who's going to get what, and just making everybody's life easier. Essentially. Oh, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I was working on links over here, and I'm
okay. There we go.
Yeah. That link that I just put in there was for J. Clay. I'm starting to put the links in here. So is there any other things that you want to let everybody know, wrap this conversation up?
Yeah, I'll say, don't get overwhelmed by it. Just take it one step at a time, especially if you're just starting out, because sometimes it pays to lose out on $200 versus 200,000. So it's like I've lost money in this game, but I was very grateful for the lessons that it taught me. But as much as you can, try to protect yourself by copywriting or publishing and different things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say this is one of the most complicated things to really understand. So like he said, just don't overthink it. It is difficult, but just be patient and uh, focus. I would say focus on split sheets. That's a really good thing to have on every song you do. And then once you have a little bit of catalog, it's best to bulk copyright. Like 10 songs at once, because it'll save you money.
And they don't have to be completely finished and perfect songs when you do it.
Right.
Yeah,
and again, like those are cases where you're working on the song and you're sending it to other people, maybe to preview it or collab. Because if you're just keeping it to yourself, you don't necessarily need to copyright yet. It's just to give you that protection when you reach out to others.
Yes. Yeah.
So before we go, if you want to connect with St. Josh, I've put his contact information in the chat, and he also has his link to his PYG music group that he was referring to. And also I've put Jay Clay's information in the chat, and he has a special offer for us. Jay Clay, making music isn't the only thing you do. Tell everybody what else you do.
Well, yeah. So my music is a little different because it adds a healing component to it. So it shares spiritual wisdom in a nice, creative way, so it can help you heal mental illnesses, overcome depression, overcome all of that. So you can hear it in my hip hop when you listen to my music. And the free offer is you get 5 days of that free. Like you get free music, insights, all that good stuff for signing up for my email list.
That is awesome. And I also have a free offer that I'm going to throw out there. I put together a prosperity assessment. And so you just take this little assessment and you'll get your prosperity score and find out how ready you are to accept prosperity into your life. And then you'll be able to get your score up there faster. So that's the point of that. And I also want to put in the chat more information about ETOPIA Festival. I do not have that link ready. So that you can find out more information about what we are doing with this workforce development project and how you might be able to help us out. And so that is the final link that is in there. And I just want to say thanks to both of you guys for coming here tonight and having this conversation. I feel like this is something that we could do again, maybe go a little bit more in depth about some of this stuff. It definitely doesn't hurt. It's a little confusing sometimes. And the more that you can revisit these kind of topics, the easier it gets. Right, guys?
Yeah. Absolutely. The more you do it, the easier it is to get familiar. And just like with anything, the more time you do it, more time you practice it, the more easy it becomes, more familiar territory it will be.
Yeah.
And the communities that St. Josh is building, that Jay Clay is building, that I'm building, and also the ETOPIA Festival, these are the kind of communities that are going to be supportive and that are going to help you get through the stuff that's hard. They're going to be the people that you can go to and ask help when you get stuck on stuff, and you're going to have somebody that's done it before that can guide you through to the next step so that you don't have to be figuring this all out on your own.
Yep.
All right. Well, until next week, thanks for joining us and have a great evening. Bye, guys.
Bye.